a sister of Tom Stewart, I think.
Well, she would have been a sister of John Stewart.
Yeah, maybe that was it. I had that all
From,
on
There was-
Ancestry.com.
It was quite a big family.
Yeah.
And, but then all split and went in different directions, and we never heard much from them afterwards. Or we never did. Maybe they both
Mother
did.
and Dad were at one time pretty friendly with the Hinchies.
With Hinchies,
Yeah, in Raleigh.
yeah.
But I don't think, when, back, because I can remember looking at the wedding invitation, the wedding notice that was in the paper on Mother's, Dad's wedding, that there was mention of the Hinchies there at their wedding. So,
The name is familiar, that's all.
so can you get onto my Ancestry?
I don't have your username and password
thought-
anymore.
Oh, I have not changed it.
I don't know.
I haven't been, no, you don't need to now.
Okay.
But I have that, a lot of that stuff there.
Yep.
I haven't been on in over a year, I just got,
Did you renew it though? I thought you were.
yeah, I did
Oh,
renew
you
it,
did renew
but-
it.
But I haven't got on.
Okay.
And I was told by a friend of mine who uses it that they have added features to it, but I haven't gone on to see if it got anything more, that we could get any more information. Okay, so let's talk about your life with Mother and Dad.
Well, it was pretty normal so far as I know.
How did you and CJ get along?
I think we got along pretty well.
He was 2 years older.
Yeah, right. He was born in 1930, me 32.
I heard when you went on car rides that you would scrap a lot.
Did what?
Scrap. Argue. Not fight.
Well-
I never heard of a fight.
Well, a lot of kids did back then. I don't know if they do anymore, but
Well, that's what I remember hearing from somebody.
We can keep going. The camera will work.
but I think for the most part we got along pretty well. I don't know that we did an awful lot together, and we never did much when later in life when we were older.
Yeah.
But,
Well, you went to grade school for, you and he were, what, at least 6 years in the same school, right?
yeah.
Because he was 2 years ahead of you. Okay. And you remember your teachers?
Well, remember them as, no, I remember some names. Catherine Healy was my favorite, and she lived with Mary and Lloyd Stapleton.
Oh, that's kind of ironic, because Mary eventually became teacher.
You don't remember her probably.
No.
She was, I would assume she was married, but I never knew a husband. But she was a good-looking gal. I remember that.
There was a picture of you and Mother in one of the Vermont, one of those calendars, Shrewsbury calendars,
Yeah,
and it
Yeah, it
said
was-
that,
and Catherine Healy was
Yes, yeah.
one of those. Well, she was a good teacher. We had, at one point in time, we had several young student teachers, I guess you'd call them. One of them, I remember, she had a different name, Miss Tancredi. She used to go sliding with us on Depot Hill. You know, we always went sliding up on Depot Hill at recess time and after school.
did you ever go all the way up to town to slide down?
Yeah, I've done that. Up the old town road, which went up between Smith's
By the-
house and the barn.
By the cemetery.
Yeah. We used to pull the Travis up there. Harry Ross had a Travis, and we spent a lot of time on that. That was hair-raising ride.
Yeah, back then you could do it because they were dirt roads.
Right.
Well, and there wasn't much traffic, you didn't have to worry about traffic.
Yeah, even I used to go sliding up in the hill.
Yeah, I'm sure you did, everybody did at this
So,
time.
so who do you remember that used to go sliding? Was Mary Ann Pratt around then?
Oh, Mary Ann Pratt, yeah, she's still living in Florida.
And,
Phyllis Van Gelder.
yeah, Phyllis. Yeah.
And Harry Ross, who lived here, he and I did more than I ever did with CJ. I mean, the Rosses had cattle up back here up on the hill, only cattle. There was maybe 3, possibly 4. And in the summertime, they'd pasture them up there, and we'd walk up there and bring them down for,
You go up the road up here?
yeah,
So there were open meadows?
yeah. Yeah, you look at some of the old pictures, and of course, none of these trees were here, you could see forever. And we spent a lot of time, we'd go berrying up there, Harry and I, we'd go up to the quarry.
Yeah.
You've been up there?
Where there's a bunch of rocks, or
Well, there's a lot of rocks, and there was still not much left of the quarry equipment. There was some big chains there
yeah.
for pulling stuff. But that's about all I remember. We used to go up, there used to be a lot of frogs in there was water in the, what was left of a
Yeah.
hole. We used to shoot the frogs,
Shoot 'em with what?
22.
Who had the 22?
Well, Harry had plenty of guns.
I know, Dad had a 22.
Yeah, we've got one over at the house now, but I wouldn't know how to load it, let alone
It was,
shoot.
Dad's was a single shot.
With what?
It was just bolt action.
Yeah.
You had one bullet at a time, put in
Right, yeah.
the chamber. Yeah.
Anyway, that was that.
So, did you have girlfriends when you were going to grade school?
Grade school?
Yeah.
No. There was girls, Al Ridland's sister, Barbara Ridland,
Well, she was there, but, you know.
Arlene Sheehan, who,
Barbara was younger than you, though, wasn't she?
yeah.
Barbara.
Well, they weren't girlfriends. I mean, he didn't have girlfriends back there, Ruth.
Okay.
We were beyond that.
I'm just checking.
Judy Patton,
Oh, yeah.
when they moved up. Arlene Sheehan, she lived where Louise Barber lived, where the, what's her name now,
Terry Martin.
Terry Martin lives. And they, but they moved out in 47, I think, went to Ludlow. I see her brother every Sunday morning. He was there this morning, Doug Sheehan. She's since passed on. She was married to Gruber, Harry Gruber in Ludlow. He's in his 90s, you know, he's still alive.
Okay, so you didn't have any real girlfriends.
No.
Okay. Let's just talk about what went on in the house with Mother and Dad. I can remember, you know, they're pretty religious. They used to say the rosary every night.
I think that was just during Lent.
Well, maybe so, I don't, you might be right.
I think it was just during Lent. At least that was the only time we had to say it with them.
And that was a chore, because I remember.
Yeah, that wasn't one of our favorite things, but we did it.
How about you wouldn't get food?
And of course, every Sunday night, we didn't have TV back then. So we listened to the radio a lot. And Dad had to have the Catholic hour on every Sunday night at 6 or 7 o'clock, whatever. And you had to listen to that during the week, we had to listen to the news, which then didn't amount to anything to me, but today it does.
Do you remember who the?
Gabriel Hayter,
Yeah, okay.
Lowell Thomas. Lowell Thomas was on forever. He was a good reporter. And some of the others I don't know.
Yeah,
but,
Gabriel Hayter, I remember. So I remember food was pretty standard and plain compared to today, because I don't ever remember having any pizza.
oh no, we never had.
Some people don't graduate from plain food.
Yeah.
Well, right, I don't.
Well, I never had pizza until, I don't know, high school, I guess.
He doesn't like
Well,
pizza.
I didn't have any then either.
Oh, I love
I
pizza.
had one a couple nights ago.
I love pizza. But we had meat and potato and vegetable.
Every Friday it was, pretty
Fish.
much every Friday it was codfish cakes.
Yeah.
It had to be fish only.
And,
Throughout the year.
Yeah.
yeah, Friday, because back then, we didn't have meat on Friday. So,
We always had good desserts. And
yeah.
at least once a month, grandmother made donuts. And everybody in town knew about that because they could smell them upstairs at the store.
Yeah, I remember the guys in the service station used to.
Yeah, they'd all get some. And they were good. During the war, you couldn't get a lot of that stuff. And there was a special mix that I think the Ridland store carried that they could make donuts with. I don't know what it was during the war you couldn't get. Maybe it was the Crisco or something like that. The fats or greasy stuff.
Did you work in the store though? Stocking shelves or whatever?
No, I unstocked some of the shit. The chocolate shells. But, yeah, I worked some in the store.
Do you remember the coupons during
Yeah.
those years?
I remember they had coupons. I couldn't.
Because you could only buy a certain amount of food, right?
Right.
You had to have your coupons,
Yeah.
something. Because I stocked shelves over there, and I can remember taking a carton of package of cigarettes out. And
Did you get caught?
no, I don't know. I was never brought up, but you know, they used to come in a carton and you put them in the case there, and
Yeah.
then keep one pack.
Showcase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember that Conrad and I used to go and smoke them in the woods up near his house. You know where he lived?
No.
The what's it called? The Glen House.
Yep.
Across from Edith Tierney. That house was
Yeah.
over there. So, and I remember in the store, they used to get a wheel of Crawley cheese. Remember that?
Yeah.
Oh, you cut that and
About 40. I think they were about 40 pounds. A big wheel.
And when they cut it the first time, it was tasted great.
That was pretty popular. And that would just sit. They had a big showcase for that. It was a glass, 4-panel glass case that it sat in.
Where are they, that stuff?
That's all gone.
But didn't you sell it to somebody in?
Well, he sold a lot of the stuff to Bill's Country Store that burned up in Killington.
Oh, so that's probably doggone
Yeah, that's gone.
it. Did you ever ride with the mail carriers around?
Oh, yeah.
There was Lyle Van Gogler and Hugh Pratt, right?
Yeah. Both Harry and I, at different times, would ride with Lyle. Never rode with Hugh, maybe once or twice, but I don't know why.
I never rode with,
But we always,
Hugh.
we did a lot with Lyle. Lyle lived in one of Bennison's houses, first one on School Street. And, we were over there a lot, both, again, Harry and I. Lyle.
Oh, because Phyllis was there.
Huh? Yeah, Phyllis lived there.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was a good-looking gal. She was a little bit older than me, by a couple of years, maybe.
Older than
She
you?
was probably CJ's age.
Oh, she was.
Same as Mary Pratt, Mary Ann Pratt.
Right, yeah, okay.
They were both CJ's age.
Lyle had an airplane, didn't he?
Lyle had the first airplane in the village. He landed it up on Steve Corson's property. He kept it up there. I never was allowed to go up with him while it was up there, but I did fly with him later years when he moved to the airport.
Oh, you did? I knew he had an airplane, but I never.
It was a little Piper Cub, but it was the first one around here that anybody had.
I went up with Lyle a number of times to deliver mail around his route, which took probably 3 or 4 hours in the morning.
Well, it went, this route, Lyle's route, went all the way down, back through the woods, up past Charlie Garrow's, and through Mount Holly, and
Down the trees.
down as far as where Wright
Yeah,
Construction
yeah.
is now. And then up just a little ways on the Healdville side, and then back up the Summit Road.
Was that in a car?
That was in a car.
He had a Jeep. One of those-
Jeep?
Yeah, he did have, he had a Jeep when I was riding.
Well, that was later years.
Well, no,
There-
boy, well, it's later years compared to you, but
Yeah.
it was I don't know, the model with the, looked like wood panel, but it wasn't wood.
Yeah.
And I remember Lyle and Dorothy used to get into arguments. I don't know what.
Well, Dorothy and Dad both had temperaments. Dad had a lot of arguments with his employees, but life went on, and the employees stayed. You know, Dad had his own way. Of course, he did a lot of different things.
Dorothy, you know who Dorothy was? Dorothy was Dad's sister.
Right.
She was born in 1900,
Died in 1956.
56.
Yeah.
Died right in the store. She had a heart attack.
No, I found her.
You did?
Yeah.
You remember the Dr. Tomasi coming down from Rutland, sticking a needle in her heart?
No.
She had to be long gone before that was.
No, but I remember because Iola Martin was working in the office. I just happened to be, I
It
don't
was
know.
Iola Fenton back then. She
Sure.
hadn't married Martin.
Yeah, Iola Fenton. So, what was the other thing?
Iola was bookkeeper at the garage. That's,
For many, many years.
yeah, for many years. She was there, and then Earl Martin, after World War II, came back from the service, and eventually they married, Iola and Earl.
But Dad had a lot of World War II vets working. In fact, he made
Yeah,
an
well,
effort to hire World War II vets.
Yeah, several. There was Earl Martin, Carol Lincoln, Dan Freeman, one or two others.
So when you worked in the garage part during
When
school.
I was a kid,
Yeah,
yeah.
where did you work?
Well,
Did you work in a gas station?
yeah, in the summertime worked some there, right? You know, I think we got paid 25 cents an hour. But in the early 1940s, I think it was, that course, Dad didn't have any cars to sell back then because of the war. Ford was making stuff for the military. And, so he ventured into several different types of business, like phonographs and refrigerators, except
Freeze, yeah,
what do you
refrigerator,
call it, the white stuff.
hot point.
Hot Point, Crowsley, Zenith Radio. Yeah. And I guess he did pretty well with that because he sold them everywhere. They were. I remember going to Bridgewater once to service a television set.
To service it?
Huh?
To service it? You mean
Yeah,
fix it?
yeah. Well,
New tubes.
this particular trip to Bridgewater, I went with John Barber and we had to put an antenna up. John did, I didn't go up on the house. We were way up the top of a hill, and the house was pretty high, but we got it done. Of course, the TV wasn't very good back then, but anyway, getting back to early 40s, must have been a little after 41 or so, they started digging out the basement of the garage.
Yeah.
And that's where I became involved with tractors. I wasn't very old back then, but, well, 42, I'd have been 10. Must have been before that. Because we used a rear scoop on the back of an old 9N tractor and came up the ramp and piled the dirt out back. And you'd come up, front wheels would ride right in the air, but it wasn't gonna tip over because the scoop was behind you. But we dug out all the basement with that tractor and several people shoveling here and there. Stewart Howes, who was a family friend from Rhode Island, he was a school teacher, so that's why he would have been up here in the summertime. He worked there.
Yeah, they had a place in
Bowlville.
Bowville.
Yeah.
You know where Bowville is?
Anyway, that was quite a project digging that out, and then they poured a cement floor in there, and that's where they started rebuilding car engines.
Do you know who poured the floor?
Hmm?
You know who poured the floor?
No, I think it was Guido Carrera. I'm not sure. Most all those people were pretty local. Well, Clarendon. It was the whole floor of the bottom of the basement was poured. And Ken Waite, who used to be a parts man in the garage, started rebuilding engines down there. And they eventually called them Stewart Built Motors, and the parts man delivered them all over the state. You take a rebuilt one out and bring some back. It was quite a big business there for quite a while.
Did you work down there?
Hmm?
Did you work down there?
Yeah, I probably didn't work, but I was there and I got greasy
Yeah.
because I would tear down a lot of the engines. Yeah, you had to pull everything apart from the engine, the pistons, crankshafts, etc. And the old Model A engines, the bearings in them were babbited with lead. And so they had a lead, I don't know what you call it, pot down there. They melted the lead right there in the basement with all the fumes and poured them into a jig on the engine, and then after it cooled, Ken would use a boring machine, bore out the bearings to the proper size, and then that was working good, and then they had to rebuild radiators. And they had a special tank down there for the radiators to soak in. And that had some kind of chemicals in it too that wouldn't be allowed today by any manner of means. not in a closed building,
Yeah,
downstairs. And so they repaired a lot of radiators. Did brake shoes. Back then, sometimes they bonded brake shoes to the shoe itself. Sometimes they just used rivets. But that was all done. So they rebuilt a lot of the vehicles down there. A lot of
and
customers' equipment.
and Hugh Redland, did
Who
electric-
lived on School Street in the red house, it's still there.
it's white now.
Huh?
It's white.
now.
Hugh was, well, he was always old, but he wasn't, you know, when I was younger, but he was an electrical man at the garage. He'd work on generators, starters, back then magnetos,
Yeah.
and Lloyd Stapleton, who lived next to the library. His wife was Mary, she was a school teacher. At that time, she was teaching school in East Wallingford. Lloyd was a steady worker there. Carl Pratt, he lived down Beardmore's old place, down on the right, now a bed and breakfast. And Carl Pratt and several others worked in Springfield during the war. Springfield was a big shop, several shops down there making war equipment. And, there were several people from here in town that drove back and forth. They usually had a carpool, which they didn't call it that back then, but that's what it was. They traveled back and forth every day.
So did you have Mary Stapleton as a teacher at all?
In the last year or two.
That's when, oh yeah, because she was there, I had her 8th grade, so I was my first grade and your 8th grade. We
No,
went to
I
that.
just had it for a couple of years.
Yeah,
There was a Mrs. Holden, there was a school teacher there. You mentioned earlier the names of the teachers, so I only remember a few of them.
so after that, you went to MSJ,
Yeah,
big transition going from one room to,
yeah.
and I don't know how many kids were in the school when you were there, 20, 20?
Where, over here?
Yeah,
Well, there was only, there was how many schools in town? There were several schools in town.
yeah, but just,
Over here,
yeah, I mean, 18.
there was just Arlene, Sheehan, and I in the 8th grade.
Yeah,
And then when they had graduation, you joined the other schools.
right.
So Bill Smith and I forget who else.
So, but going from here to MSJ, which is considerably bigger, was a big transition.
Yeah. I was never a student. I didn't like school, never liked school. I just
Did
wasn't
you play
good.
any sports there?
Huh?
Did you play any sports?
No, I went out for football once, and they never had equipment that would fit me. So, and I didn't know anything about it. I'd never been to a football game before, so I didn't know anything about it back then. And I wasn't any good, so I didn't last long.
CJ, I think,
CJ played football.
but he hurt his knee. or
He
something.
hurt his knee, yeah. And he stayed up in Rutland. He stayed over night during the week at a place, he rented a place in Rutland.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, I do.
So,
I don't know for how long, I don't remember how long it went.
So, the first couple of years, how did you get to MSJ? Who gave you a ride?
Well, you rode with different people back then. I remember one guy was from East Wallingford. He had an old, I think it was a 39 Ford. And didn't have much of a heater in it. he'd be driving there with his cigarette lighter in his hand to keep the windshield somewhat clear so he could see.
Did he work in Rutland? Was that
He
it?
worked in Rutland, smoked constantly. But he's the only one I remember. And then I was, of course, very fortunate when I turned 16, I had my license and had a car.
So that was your sophomore year.
Yeah. But the day of my birthday, I got my license, and then I drove ever since.
And
And I had a car full of kids ride with me.
what car did you have the first year?
My first car was a 1941 Ford two-door, new one, dark blue.
And the second one?
The second one was a 1946 dark blue two-door Ford, of course.
And what after that? Did you drive the car I drove?
Yeah,
That was Wendell Davis's car.
yeah. See, there was a 1950 Ford
Two-door.
two-door.
With visor, had a
Yeah.
visor,
Somebody,
spotlight.
probably CJ had that put on,
Okay.
because he had it, he drove it to Georgia and back
He did.
when he was in the service. And then I had it, I drove it to Spokane, Washington and back once or twice.
So, what year did you graduate from MSJ?
1950.
And while you're there, did the nuns ask you to drive them around to doctor's appointments?
No, I don't really recall that.
Well, I had to drive them several times, doctor's appointments and other things. And I'm under the impression that they asked me because you gave them rides too, but you don't remember?
I don't remember doing that.
Okay, well, I
They
could
could have, but they're probably too scared to ride with me.
Well, I don't know. So, who were your girlfriends in high school?
I didn't have any.
In
I
high school?
really didn't. I
Who,
didn't.
who did
I-
you hang around with?
I went with a girl from Rutland High School.
What was her name?
You don't wanna know. Mariana Bugby. What a name. I think.
So how come Rutland High School not MSJ?
I wasn't a good dancer. You know, where did you go when you went on a date?
You went to
You went to a
movies.
dance.
Oh, you went to a movie?
Yeah.
Or you went to, in my day, it was Prouse's, not Prouse's, but Seward's, Cedardale. Was Cedardale there?
Cedardale, Thomas's, and yeah,
Yeah.
Mill Village. Yeah, we'd do that. That's about all you're
So
doing.
who were your buddies? And wasn't there a Villamere that was a,
Grant Villamere, yeah. He
because there
died,
was a Gary Villamere in my class
yeah.
in MSJ.
Grant died at an early age. But, you know, a lot of the kids used to ride with me in the car, because I was fortunate to have a car. You know, somebody wanna go somewhere, we'd go.
Did you ever go across the line?
Well, that was later, after you were 16, after you were,
21.
no,
Was it 18?
yeah, I don't know what it was. How old was I when I was out of school?
Well, you didn't answer my question.
What?
Did you go to New York State?
Hmm?
There was
Oh, yeah, we used to go to the Little Club.
a little club and there was a,
Back then, Castleton, no, Green Mountain College was an all-girls school.
right, yeah.
And you could go over there and just ask, there were there were several dorms, and they'd have a dorm mother, or whatever they call them. And you could ask them for a date, see if any girls wanted to go out.
Without even seeing them ahead of time.
Yeah, nobody was afraid of anything back then, you know, you just And I never heard of any incidents that was out of line.
Of course, CJ's
Yeah.
wife Sally
Sa-
was graduated from
Yeah.
Green Mountain
Right,
College.
yeah. And,
So, what year did you go in the Air Force?
1955.
55. You went to UVM for a while?
Yeah, short while.
Okay.
Kicked out of there.
And then what did you do before you went in the Air Force? Did you go in the Air Force right after?
Yeah, shortly after I went to what did I do? I went to UVM and Christmas time. That was the end of UVM. And then I went to Rutland Business College for a few months. And that was fine. I learned something there. I don't know what, but I learned something. That was a good school.
Where was that?
It was upstairs near the Marble Savings Bank, somewhere in that area.
Okay, so.
Mrs. Hinton had that.
And
She was there forever.
Did you graduate from Rutland Business College?
I don't think I was there long enough, because I joined the service in June,
Okay,
and there was three of us, Tom Smith, myself, and Dick Kennedy from Wallingford, that joined together in the Air Force.
and then where did you take basic training?
Sampson Air Force Base in Geneva, New York,
And
out near the Finger Lakes.
I think Mother, Dad, and I went out to see you. one
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
And from there, where did you go?
Went to, Wichita Falls, Texas.
Yeah, okay. I remember that.
Shepherd Air Force Base. That was a school, went to school there for X number of months, I forget now how long. And from there,
For what kind of school? Was it engine repair or something?
that was general airplane mechanics. And then I went from there to Spokane, Washington, Fairchild Air Force Base. And then they sent me to Champaign, Illinois, Chanute Air Force Base to learn to be an engine mechanic on a B-36. But I never was one. I got lucky and I would get into the parts department, and I knew parts pretty well, and remember numbers.
And when did you go to Guam?
Just before I get out, 54.
Was that your last duty station?
No, I finished it at Spokane, Fairchild. 'Cause
So
we
Guam-
went to Guam just as a TDY, the whole base, or most of the base did,
And you met Peggy
in Spokane.
yeah. And how did you meet her?
Probably, I don't really remember, probably through some dance, probably, I don't know, USO. I don't remember what.
And you two got married out there.
Yeah,
And what year was that?
1955.
55. I remember driving out there with you once,
Yeah,
cross country.
right. Did we drive back?
Yeah,
I know we drove out there.
yeah.
Now, that would have been in that 54.
I don't know.
And then when I went out to marry Peggy, I had a 55 Ford two-row hardtop,
Yeah, I remember.
nice black and white one. I'd like to have that back.
we saw a picture of that, cause I remember I thought it was a 56, you said no, it's 55.
Yeah, it was 55.
Okay, so you came out, you married her in 55, and you came back here, and you went immediately to work in the garage, right?
Right, yeah.
And were they selling tractors at that time?
Yeah, this old tractor way back in the, I don't know when he started, but Fordson was back in the 20s.
And so when you came back, you took over that part of it?
Well, I didn't, not right away, I didn't take it over, I like the farm equipment stuff
Yeah.
better than the automotive. And somehow I kind of drifted into that part of it. And as I got a little bit older, I guess I more or less took over that and went from there.
And, let's see, was your first house here, was it the store or Riddland's? Hugh Riddland's place?
Hugh Ridland's place, the Red House on School Street.